Welcome back to episode 3 of NBA by Jellyman, a segment of Sports Tips by Jellyman. Subscribe to our weekly, monthly, or annual packages today. That includes stats and insights daily, up to about 3 recommendations emails, anywhere from 8 to 12 tips per day, ranging from about 1 unit to about 3 units per tip. So, as mentioned, we'll put jellyman.co in the show notes. Feel free to jump on and subscribe. Or have a chat to me via Messenger for more information. But we'll jump into today's episode. So episode number 3, NBA Week 2, reviewing obviously the week that's just gone, previewing Week 3, and then also stats and insights, and then also some chat about early standings and MVP, early season MVPs, because we've had some standout performance so far. But we'll jump into it, obviously reviewing sort of topic 1, 2, and 3. Reviewing all the games just gone. So look, we'll smash through that and then get into the interesting stuff about previewing the upcoming week. Then also, as mentioned, early standings and stats and insights towards the end. We'll also put the stats and the insights in the show notes. So if you want quick, easy access to them, jump on YouTube or have a look at the show notes there. But we'll crack into it. So topic 1, Tuesday and Wednesday's games. Tuesday games saw the Sixers notch their first win of the season over the Pacers, 120-106. Not too much to cover off on that. That's a must-win / should-win game for the Sixers. The Raptors beat the Heat 98-90 in a defensive slog. We actually picked that one, being the Raptors being the underdogs. I think we had their plus line at about plus 3.5 off the top of my head. The Bulls beat the 3-0, now 3-1 Celtics. That was at that stage. Rockets beat the 3-0, now 3-1 Jazz. Nets and Grizzlies. Huge game. They combined for 258 points. Durant, Irving, Morant, so Durant and Morant, and Bain all had 35 plus points. So the Memphis ended up winning 134-124 in an absolute shootout. The Spurs beat the Wolves. We'll get to that in those later touch on that a bit later as well, because it happened again. And the Blazers smashed the Nuggets. Jokic was in foul trouble. Wednesday's game saw the Wizards smash the Pistons. Bogey and Kuzma put up 25 each. Injury-riddled Pelicans at the moment, at that stage, beat the Mavericks 113-111. Doncic Luka had 37 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Thunder beat the Clippers for the first time in the week, 108-94. No PG or no Kawhi. We'll touch on that also a little bit later. Heat beat the Blazers in Portland, 119-98. Lillard, injury concerns. He injured his calf at about the 77-70 mark, and then the Heat just blew out the Blazers after sort of Lillard dropped off. Nuggets beat the Lakers 110-99. LA went to 0-4. The Joker had 31, 13-9. Davis had 22-14, still suffering a bit of back pain. That was obviously Tuesdays and Wednesdays games, a long time ago now, if you can't remember. That's just quickly touching on that. Topic 2, Thursday and Friday's games. So Thursday's games, we had 9 games. The Cavs beat the Magic. Paulo Bonchero impresses once again with 29 points. Hawks outlast the Pistons, and Young went on a bit of a run here, 35 points, and Bogey had 33 points. So Bogdanovic for the Pistons, who's just signed a contract extension, has been on a bit of a tear as well. Knicks beat the Hornets in OT, Brunson 27, 7, and 13. The Knicks, a hard one because they keep on, similar to what Coach Thibodeau does. He plays his starters, and then he doesn't play his starters. He plays his bench, and he plays. It's just super confusing, and there's not much consistency in that side. They're actually having a right record at the moment anyway. But yeah, it's really interesting, and we sort of try to stay away from player props for the Knicks because of that reason. The Raptors beat up on the Sixers on the first leg of their back-to-back games, 119-109 in Toronto. Bucks beat the Nets 110-99. Brooklyn actually led for a lot of the game, but then Steve Nash got his second technical and got ejected, and then the tide turned. Giannis dominated, and that was the game. Giannis, 43 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists. Durant, 33 points, and as mentioned, Nash ejected. The Bulls beat the Pacers, 124-109. Not too much to cover off. The T-Wolves bounced back versus the Spurs, 134-122. Edwards had 34 after Cat obviously dissed his diet. Heard a few different people talk about this one, but obviously, young player, he can eat what he wants for the moment. As long as he's scoring those amount of points, it doesn't really matter. The Jazz beat the Rockets 109-101. Not too much to cover off in that one either. And the Suns smashed the Warriors and made it personal. 134 to 105. Book had 34. Thompson was ejected. Paul was actually super hot in the first half, and I think we had him for his points over in this one, as he had quite a good record against Phoenix. But then he just went super cold and went to his sort of passing game in that second half. Maybe it was because he was against the first unit rather than the bench unit of the Suns. Not too sure, but he went really quiet. That was Thursday's games. Friday's games, with the Mavericks beat the Nets in OT, 129 to 125 in Brooklyn. Obviously, Brooklyn were on a back-to-back. Luka had 41, 11, and 14. Irving had 39 points. Thunder beat the Clippers for the second time in a row. As mentioned, we were going to touch on this. SGA 24, Zubac 18 rebounds. We'll get to the Clippers a bit later when we go through the standings and what it sort of means for them. With the team they've got at the moment, with Kawhi obviously out again and sort of rehabbing that knee for the moment. The Warriors come home strong versus the Heat, 123 to 110 in Golden State. Butler, he had 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists. Curry had 33 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. So obviously the stars showing out. And then the Grizzlies stay hot and they beat the Kings 125 to 110. Bane had 31 after his 38 points versus the Nets. He's also another hot player, but we'll get to that in the stats and insights. Fox, another 27 points. Topic 3, Saturdays and Sundays games. Hawks beat the Pistons 136-112 in Detroit. Magic beat the Hornets 113-92, Orlando's first win of the season. Cavs beat the Celtics 132-123 in OT. Mitchell and LeVert 41 points apiece. Brown and Tatum just couldn't match that output. 76ers beat the Raptors 112 to 90 to even up the back-to-back matchups. They actually played without Embiid, and Maxey had an absolute terror of a game. He absolutely killed it. He actually had, I think, 44 points on the top of the noggin. Pacers 127 to 117 against the Wizards. Tyrese once again stars. Bucks beat the Knicks 119 to 108. Giannis once again dominates. He's in a bit of a tear at the moment as well. T-Wolves beat the Lakers 111 to 102. Gobert had a 20 and 20 game, no AD for the Lakers, struggling with that back problem as mentioned. Spurs beat the Bills 129 to 124. DeRozan actually notches up 20,000 points. I think he's in the top 50 now for those. Or even a bit further. Nuggets beat the Jazz 117 to 101. 117 to 101. Blazers beat the Rockets 125 to 111. And then the Suns beat the Zionless and Ingramless Pelicans 124-111. Sunday's games. Kings beat the Heat 119-113 to notch their first win of the season. Hornets beat the Warriors 120-113 to knock Golden State to 0-2. They actually go to 0-3 after they lost to the Pistons today. So them on the road is a bit of a concern as well, but we'll touch on that in the next sort of piece. Sixers beat the Bulls in Chicago 114-109. Embiid hit a late clutch, 3 late. And then also the Pacers beat the Nets 125 to 116. Brooklyn now go 1-5 and 1-3 at home. As we mentioned earlier in the season, actually, Brooklyn struggle at home for some reason, and we thought it might have been just because, Kyrie wasn't playing there last season, but it's obviously a bit more to that. The Bucks beat the Hawks 123-115. Giannis and Young both put on a show. The Thunder goes on an 18-2 run to force overtime versus the Mavericks, and then they win at 117 to 111. Luka and SGA put on an absolute show, 35 plus points apiece, and doing a bit of everything. And then to round out Sunday's games, Jazz beat the Grizzlies in Utah. The Jazz just hit, I think it was 3 or 4 late threes in the game and went on about an 8-0, 12-0 run, or 8-0 and then 12-4 run to finish out that game. And that's ultimately what won it for them by point. Monday's game, so last but not least of covering off on the games, Pelicans beat the Clippers in LA. Zion 21, 12 and 7 on return. Celtics smashed the Wizards 112 to 94. Brown, Tatum and Brogdon all 20 plus points. Cavaliers beat the Knicks 121 to 108. Mitchell had 38 points and 12 assists, and he keeps rolling. Pistons beat the Warriors 128 to 114. As mentioned before, makes the Warriors go 0-3 now on the road. They were without Thompson, which is something to consider, but even then, losing to Detroit obviously improved a lot. Cunningham was actually 1 assist off a triple-double. Poole and Curry both had 30 plus points after Poole was day-to-day listed at the start of that one. The Spurs beat the T-Wolves again, so they go 2-1 up in the series, 107-98. That one was in San Antonio. And then Mavericks notch a win versus the Magic. So Mavericks notch a win versus the Mavericks. Can't get it right. The Mavericks notch a win versus the Magic, 114-105. Luka had 44 points, so he was incredible. Suns beat the Rockets 124-109. Booker, another 30-point game. Lakers get their first win of the season, 121-110. Russ, 18-8-8 off the bench. James, 26-8. Davis, 23-15. But concern for Davis is that lower back issue he's been struggling with. He grabbed it at late and struggled to close out the game properly, getting up and down the floor. We'll see how that pans out in the coming days. That is the review of the week done. We've got topic 5 here, so previewing the upcoming week. So Tuesday's games, look at the Hawks at the Raptors. So obviously Young's on a bit of a tear at the moment, and then Siakam's actually playing really well as well. And then the Grizzlies rematch with the Jazz. So the Grizzlies likely to have Morant back for that one, just depending on where they want to rest him. Wednesday's games, Bulls at the Nets, Warriors at the Heat, T-Wolves at the Suns. The Suns at home are a good bet any day of the week, as well as their line at home. They're super strong, and also their live line potentially in the last quarter when they're leading. There was a stat today that they were 47-0 last season when leading at 3/4 time, so that's a pretty good stat there. Thursday, Celtics at the Cavs, that rematch of the OT game. So obviously at the Cavs as well, rather than being in Boston. That'll be an interesting one to watch. Mitchell hopefully again tears it up. Hawks at Madison Square Garden versus the Knicks. So Trae Young, Madison Square Garden, you know what to do. Jazz at the Mavericks, Pelicans at the Lakers. So Zion versus LeBron will be an interesting matchup there. Friday, there's only 2 games, so which is the Warriors and the Magic, and Nuggets versus the Thunder. Couple of, not snoozes, but couple of sort of underlying games. Saturday, Bulls at the Celtics, Raptors at the Mavericks, Warriors at the Pelicans, Bucks at the T-Balls, Jazz at the Lakers. So Saturday's games look incredible. I know what I'll be doing that day, and it involves the couch and the TV. Sunday, Pelicans at the Hawks, Celtics at the Knicks. So Tatum and Brown at Madison Square Garden. So we'll have a few stats on that one, but I know both of them like to play there. I mean, Tatum loves that big show, and Brown sort of matches in with that. Last but not least, Monday, Cavs at the Lakers. So obviously that Cleveland team heading into LA. Obviously there's that love between Cleveland and LeBron. The Bulls at the Raptors, and then the Jazz at the Clippers. So the Jazz at the Clippers is usually one to watch for us, because they're two all-rounded teams with no specific scorers. So that could go either way. The Bulls at the Raptors is always a good one. Obviously DeRozan heading into Toronto. Watch his points over in that one. That's previewing the upcoming week anyway. Obviously, some exciting games once again. We roll through week 3. Topic 6, early standings, and a quick MVP chat. So the Eastern Conference. So we'll sort of give a quick overview of our synopsis of each team that we've listed down. So the Bucks 5-0, likely to go 6-0 tomorrow. They've had a lot of home games, had a lot of breaks between games, but they're without Middleton still. So they're our pick for the championship this year. We've sort of mentioned it earlier on, but you know, with that continuity the team has, and then the improvement of Allen and Giannis looks to have gotten better. They don't even have Middleton as of yet. Holiday went off the other night, and he's not even playing his best basketball apart from the other night. So they've got a lot of room to grow, a lot of improvement. And as I said at the start of the season, that continuity from keeping the same group together matters. I play football, and I know that matters as a team. Keeping that group together year after year is a big thing. Cavaliers 5-1, so obviously Mitchell without Garland is absolutely dominating. He has LeVert by his side, but LeVert was average last game after the 41 points. So they've only got room to go. And as Chuck said, they're scary hours with the sort of 5 they've got consistently. And then they've got depth as well through Love, and they're all really hungry for that championship. So look at them to be there at the back end of the season. The Celtics and the Hawks both at 4-2. They're sort of rolling through as they should. They've got the sides to do it. But then at the other end, the Nets 1-5, and it's just some growing pains, we think, at the start of the season. Harris hasn't played much basketball. Simmons hasn't played much basketball. Together as a group, they haven't played much basketball. So that's going to be a big thing. I think they pick it up later in the season. They could be very similar to what the Celtics were like last year. As long as they get together and know what they're doing and know what they want to accomplish. We'll quickly touch on Simmons. It just doesn't look like his head's completely in the game yet. He's not attacking the offensive glass. Obviously that when he goes to shoot, it's not always there. He was a bit better against the Pacers, but the big thing is it's just like getting back to that offensive IQ that he used to have. The defense is there, but it's just giving up on certain plays that lacks. Irving and Durant have been brilliant though, and will probably instill the confidence in him to keep getting better and better. The Heat are at 2-5, which is a big surprise there. They've had a few tough games, but a few winnable games. But maybe it takes a bit for them to get going. Our biggest worry with them is their scoring. Bam's not a known scorer, he's a known defender. Lowry at the back end of his career, not a known scorer. Butler can score, but not a known scorer. Hero is their only real known scorer. Now, they paid Robinson a massive amount of money, and he's doing nothing for them. So, although they've got a lot of undrafted players like Strus, Vincent that come off the bench, there's not consistent production that sort of can get them these wins. So that's our biggest concern for them. The 76ers, they're slowly working it out. They look good without Embiid, and they look good with Embiid. And Harden and him are just trying to work it out and work what works best for them, and then also feeding, Maxey Harris and how does Tucker fit into the equation as well. But they'll work it out. They'll sort of get on a run potentially and sort of win a few games there. Over to the Western Conference, the 5-1 Blazers. They've had a lot of easy games to start the season, but they look like a team that could contend as well this year as long as Lillard is healthy. The Suns 5-1. They've had a few games at home in a row, and as we mentioned, they're super good at home. The Spurs and the Jazz 5-2. Now, the other end, the Spurs, we'll quickly touch on the Spurs and the Jazz. Two teams everyone thought that were tanking this season. Young lineups, as well as a bit of veteran touch. They've just come out and they've got nothing to lose. They come out as an underdog most games, and they compete. They compete defensively. They get up and down the floor, and it's really shown in their wins column. Now, the other end, Lakers 1-5. They got their first win today, as mentioned. We'll see what happens there, and they're back at home, so they had a few games on the road, so a few losses happened there. The Clippers 2-4. As we said, that continuity really matters, and although they've got a depth team, they've got no one who just takes the ball and goes to score. George isn't making his shots. Wall's diverting to other people, or deferring to other people, I should say. And then obviously Leonard headed back to LA to work on his knee. The Warriors 3-4 as well. As we said, 0-3 on the road is the biggest concern for them. So they're 3-1 at home, 0-3 on the road. They'll probably need to tidy that up. And it all comes to probably their defense on the road. They've been allowing a lot of points. And maybe that is the green factor coming in and that trust on defense. I don't know. It'll be one to watch. Quick MVP chat. So Giannis, Luka, Tatum, Durant, and Curry as the top 5 runners. They're all super at the moment, and it looks to be whoever can last out the whole season and play the most games, as well as drive their team to the best record out of those 5, that's who will win it in our eyes. So anyway, that's a bit of early standing stuff, a bit of chatter about those top teams and bottom teams, as well as a quick MVP chat. We'll try to touch on maybe, the Rookie of the Year, the Most Improved Player, Defensive Player of the Year, all that sort of jazz in coming weeks on each sort of episode, as well as the standings. But we'll jump into the stats, insights, and consistent players. So we'll go through this one a bit slower and discuss about sort of what we think. First thing we want to touch on is the head-to-heads. And what we've been doing is, if a head-to-heads are in that 140, 150 mark, and the lines at that sort of, minus 4.5, minus 5.5 mark, we've been likening to combine that head-to-head with a player prop. So around that 150 mark, which usually makes that 210, 205, 210, 215 mark, which is a really good spot to be in. And often, obviously, the bookies set these lines at, so let's say 27.5 for Tatum, and he misses by 1 or 2 because how bang on the bookies are. Whereas if you decrease it to, say, 24, 25.5, it drops the odds a bit, but then combining it with the head-to-head boosts those odds back up. That's what we've been likening to, and we've seen a bit of success through for the start of the season, as well as rebounds. So, the big fellas who are at that point, rebounds over-under mark of about 9.5, reducing that to about 8+ rebounds along with the head-to-head has also been working well. So a little bit of an insight there on the head-to-heads and combining them as a 2-leg multi. But we'll jump into player stats. So we'll cover off the averages first, and then the points consistent players, consistent points from players, and then consistent rebounds, and then consistent assists, and that'll be us done and dusted. So the averages for this season, obviously, it's in alphabetical order because that's how I run through the sheet on. So Trae Young, he's averaging 31 points and 9 assists per game. He's had a bit of a hot streak of late after a slowish start to the season, but sort of working out how him and Murray are going to play together. Jason Tatum's averaging 30 points and 7 rebounds. Had a quiet game last game against the Wizards by his standards. That's because they blew them out, so he didn't play as many minutes as he usually does. Jaylen Brown, his counterpart, 25 plus points and 6 plus rebounds. That's his averages. So as I said, those two scoring 25 each. It's a good sort of two-leg multi there. Durant is averaging 32 points and Irving's averaging 30 points. So once again, another, combined for 25 and 25 together because they're consistently scoring that. DeRozan, he's averaging 25 plus points and Vucevic is averaging 11 plus rebounds. Donovan Mitchell from the Cavs is averaging 32 points, 4 rebounds and 7 assists. And then Luka is averaging 36 points, 9 rebounds and 8 assists, which is incredible. Nikola, so the Joker, is averaging 36 points, 9 rebounds and 8 assists. Sorry, that was Luka's. Jokic is averaging 21 points, 11 plus rebounds and 8 plus assists. We've got Curry, he's averaging 31 points, 6 plus rebounds and 5 plus assists. Tyrese Haliburton from the Indiana Pacers is averaging 23 plus points and 10 assists. He's also a good shout for the most improved player. Not exactly sure what the market's at the moment, but he's looking like a front runner at the moment. James, so that's LeBron, is averaging 25 plus points, 8 plus rebounds and 7 assists. Hasn't lost a step. Davis is averaging 23 points and 10 rebounds. Morant, 32, 4 and 6. Giannis, 34, 14 and 5. So Giannis's rebounds are up at the moment, which is really good, and obviously his points tally as well. Just be careful with him. I think they play the Pistons tomorrow in potential blowouts. Giannis is one to watch because he'll only play that 3 quarters. He may still get his points tally in those 3 quarters, but if they're beating a team by 10, 15 and then it stays that way and it extends out, although he'll want to play, he could potentially stay off the court and not finish up closer to that mark. So that's one we're always careful of. SGA is averaging 31 points, 5 rebounds and 7 assists. So that's for the Thunder. Booker, 29 points and 5 assists. Embiid, 27 points and 9 rebounds. Be careful at Embiid's rebounds at the moment. It seems like he's not too phased with sort of getting them around that 10, 11, 12 mark because Harden's grabbing a few. Harden, 21.7 rebounds and 9 assists. Fox, so De'Aaron from the Kings, 27.7 rebounds and 5 assists. And then Keldon Johnson from the Spurs is averaging 23 plus points. Last but not least for averages, Siakam, so Pascal from the Raptors, is averaging 25 plus points, 9 plus rebounds and 7 plus assists. So obviously quite a few good scorers, good averages there. Obviously only early on in the season, but what we really like is seeing the consistency of points, rebounds and assists. So Trae Young's had 35 plus points in his last 3 games. Durant, 26 plus points in all 6 games. Irving, 30 plus points in 5 of 6 games. Doncic, 31 plus points in all 6 games. And Bogdanovic from the Pistons, 20 plus points in his last 4 games. Curry, 30 plus points in 6 of 7 games. So he's on a streak at the moment. Also very good at home, but has matched it on the road in his last 2 road games. Tyrese Haliburton, 24 plus points in 5 of 7 games. Desmond Bane's gotten hot of late, so 30 plus points in his last 3 games. He was without Morant in the last game, so he had to score. Giannis, 30 plus points in his last 4 games. And then SGA, 28 plus points in 4 of 5 games. Booker, 28 plus points in 5 of 6 games. Embiid, 25 plus in 5 of 6. Johnson, 25 plus in his last 3 games. So that's Keldon Johnson from the Spurs. Siakam, 23 plus points in 5 of 6 games. Moving on to the rebound. So we've got Jokic. He's at 10 plus rebounds in 5 of his last 6 games. Capella, 10 plus rebounds in his last 4 games. Adams, 10 plus rebounds in his last 3 games. Giannis, 12 plus rebounds in all 5 games. And Nurkic from the Blazers, 12 plus rebounds in 4 of 5 games. Last little segment here, so the assists. So Joker, 6 plus assists in all 7 games. Tyrese Haliburton, 8 plus assists in his last 6 games. And then SGA, 6 plus assists in his last 4 games. Harden, 9 plus assists in 5 of his last 6 games. And Chris Paul from the Suns, 9 plus assists in all 6 games. That clears us out for the stats. As I mentioned, it's going to be in the show notes. So if you didn't want to listen back to that dribble over and over again, it'd be good to have a look at the show notes and sort of take down some players you'd like. But, there's quite a few players there that are consistently scoring over their averages or over their points over under mark. As I mentioned, potentially lowering their, points over under mark to 25 or 20, whatever that may be, from rebounds to 10 to 8, and then combining a few things together can make sort of some of these guaranteed, but not overcomplicating it is always obviously a good task as well. Anyway, that's us for Monday the 31st of October. Feel free to like, follow, and subscribe all good podcasting platforms. Obviously, Facebook, Instagram is where we live. Feel free to jump on jellyman.co as well if you're willing to subscribe to weekly, monthly, or annual. Weekly's $19.99 a month. A week. $19.99 a week, $39.99 a month, and $1.99 is the annual. And you can pause or cancel whenever you may be. Feel free to shoot us a message via Messenger as well. And that is all, folks. As mentioned, like, follow, and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your night. Cheers.